If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel and another tutorial. Today I'm happy to sew along with you the Juniper Toiletries bag by Calla. And I know what you're saying, Brandy, you've already done a tutorial on this bag. Yes, I have. But the tutorial I did a year or so ago was the original pattern. So what happened was there was an original pattern for the Juniper bag. And then, oh, there's Dexter. And then Celine did a rewrite of the bag shortly after or just before I did the tutorial, and I hadn't realized it. So this is a tutorial for the new construction of the Juniper Toiletries bag by Calla. This construction is so much easier than the old one, but you still have the old one for reference. So if you have purchased the Juniper Toiletries bag from years ago, make sure you go and get the updated pattern as well, which I believe is available on her website for everybody who owned it before. I'm not sure. Should be, but don't hold me to that. Anyways, so yeah, let me give you, Dexter just went between my legs. This is great. Let me show you some of the features of this bag. So I find this being the absolutely perfect men's tote. Now you're gonna see on this one, my zippers are closing the wrong way. I have made this one for my husband who is left-handed and he likes it to close the opposite way. So I made this left-handed. It's fairly deep. There is piping on this one. It's got little pull tabs for when you want to open and close your zippers. And you have very roomy compartments here. This is a birth bag. It's got a very unique construction. It comes together super fast. I did this one cut to finish while filming a tutorial within 6 hours. So this is a great gift. The guts of this bag. So these vinyls are from Galaxy Kustoms. These are the variegated Canuck vinyls. I believe the two colors, I don't know which one's which, but I believe they're beaver and lynx. One is slightly darker than the other. All of my hardware is from Emmaline bags. Interfacings in this, in the bottom and in the sides, I do have some Decovil Heavy pieces, which I get from Emmaline bags. I have some fleece in here as well, which I get from Emmaline bags. And the main stabilizer, besides the fleece, is sew and foam. So I've used Pretty and Pink sew foam from Galaxy Kustoms in this as well. You probably could, instead of the foam, you probably could use Decovil Light or something equivalent as well, EB-Fuse Heavy, but you won't have quite as much of a squish to the bag. Yeah, I truly do enjoy sewing this bag. So how about we get to exploring the new construction of the Juniper Toiletries bag. I need some optional rivets, number 5 zipper tape, 2 number 5 zipper pulls, some piping or piping cording if you're making your own, and your nameplate. You're going to need your 2 outer zipper panels. These are mirrored to one another. 2 inner zipper panels. 4 pull tabs. 4 lining main panels. 2 accent pieces with your Decovil Heavy outside of the seam allowances and your fleece. 2 sets of your zipper ends mirrored to one another. Your handle piece. This is for making my own piping. 2 zipper facing pieces. Your bottom piece, I have my Decovil Heavy underneath this foam outside of the seam allowances. Your top panel here with the fleece cut away from the zipper, and I've also fused my Decovil Heavy piece as per the pattern placement, and my 2 side panels already backed with the foam. So we're going to work on our top zippers. I've already gone and marked my rectangles as per the pattern pieces. Make sure you situate these right sides together on your main exterior. So the inner is marked to the inner and the outer is marked to the outer of the facings. Line these up nice and centered. You'll see how they fit perfectly right along where that curvy part is. The center should match up there perfectly. Again, these are right sides together. And you can kind of feel through that rectangle to make sure that where we're going to be sewing is going to be outside of that fleece. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to put some pins down the center where we will be cutting this away, so it doesn't matter if there are holes in my vinyl. And then we're going to go ahead and we're just going to sew along the long sides of these drawn rectangles. You do not need to worry about doing the short sides. This is my new favorite way of doing zipper pockets that makes those corners super crisp. So go ahead and just sew along the long straight edges of both of these. Once that is done like so, what we want to do is we want to draw from those short ends a 1/2 inch line from each of those short ends. And then you want to draw a halfway mark line in between those short lines. And then do your V's out to where our stitching ends. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to just start our cut with a rotary cutter down the middle to those lines. Go in with your scissors and cut into those V's as close as you can to the stitching without cutting the stitching. Then what you're going to do is you're going to fold the facing through that opening, bringing these wrong sides together, and you're going to give it a really good press. Now I'm using vinyl, so I'm going to use some double-sided tape as my pressing agent here to hold everything in place. Do the same for the opposite side, and this is what that looks like. Okay, so now we're going to prepare a zipper. So I got both of my pulls going the same way. They are right side up, as well as my inner zipper panels are right side up. I'm going to use some double-sided tape. If your machine is sensitive to that, definitely use some clips instead. On my bottom one here, I put it along the top, and I'm putting my tape along the bottom of the top one as I have these situated how they're going to go. You're going to go ahead and you're going to place the zipper tape right side up on top of this, just like so. And you're going to do the same with the other one, except for it's going to go along the bottom side and the bottom of that zipper tape. And this is to make sure that our zipper pulls are situated going the same direction. Go ahead and baste those in place. Next, what we want to do is we want to fold that seam away like so and press that like so. Okay, so now we are going to do the same with the exterior zipper panels. So I'm going to use double-sided tape again along the straight edge. And then with the unsewn side of our zipper, we're going to go ahead and place that on here like so, making sure it lines up well with the inner zipper panel. Go ahead and baste that in place and then give that a good press. Open again. So this is what that looks like. Go ahead and trim your excess zipper tape off if you have any. So your zipper tape should look right side up and you should see the wrong side of your lining pieces. And they should be situated this way. Okay, so I flip these over so we see the lining side. I have my straight edges facing one another. I'm going to take my zipper panels and I'm going to make sure that they are orientated correctly. So the shorter side will be along the zipper panel and they will branch out larger to the exterior. Once you have those in place, put these right sides together. Again, double checking that the straight side is with the straight side and that the curve is working outward. We're going to sew across here with the seam allowance, flip this open, and then sew through that bottom zipper tab part with an 1/8 of an inch top stitch.
this is what those look like all done. Now what we want to find is the centers of our long sides of both of these zipper panels, as well as the center of our main exterior piece where our zipper panel is, the top part. We're going to put our zippers on similar to how we do it with a zipper overlay type construction. So again, I'm going to use some double-sided tape here. I'm going to put it along the long edges of my rectangles of the facing on the wrong side here. Now you want to make sure you have these orientated properly. So again, the straight sides are together and the curvy sides are on the outside. We're going to take this outer piece and we are going to line up the curvy side centers like so, and that'll give us perfect placement of the zipper. Stick it down with that tape, or you can use pins depending what your outer material is. Make sure it's nice and even. Pull off the paper of that other tape and stick it down nice and straight along the bottom side of the zipper. And then we're going to go ahead and top stitch all the way around that rectangle. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull my threads long to tie off on the back. If you don't do this, make sure you do back stitch well at the start and the stop. So this is both of those done. Make sure your zipper does open and close, and it does. You can also go ahead and trim off that zipper facing a little bit if you wanted to. Now we're going to work on our pull tabs. I'm going to put some double-sided tape down the center of one of these and bring the long edges into the center to one another. And then I'm going to fold these in half lengthwise, wrong sides together, and then I'm going to top stitch around all 4 edges, or top stitch the 3 finished edges and baste the raw edge for all 4. So that is that done. I'm going to mark up a 1/2 inch from the raw edge on all 4 of these. Then I'm going to take my zipper piece here. These lining pieces I am going to fold back. Again, later on I do trim away some of that excess zipper facing you can see hanging out there. It'll make your life easier later on, so make sure you do trim some of that zipper facing in between the layers away. And then we're going to place these kind of nice and even with where our zippers are and line it up with the raw edge of this exterior piece at that 1/2 inch line that we did on all 4, and you're going to go ahead and baste those on. What that looks like. Now we're going to go ahead and we are going to do our side accents here. So the shorter side is what is going to be going with our edges like so. So kind of situate them properly, make sure they're going the right direction, and then clip them on right sides together to each of the sides here. We're going to go ahead, so with the seam allowance, flop this down so the seam is pointing towards the bottom of this accent piece, and then top stitch through the accent piece to hold that seam in place. Okay, so this is what that looks like all done. Double check that your zippers still work well, and they do. Okay, so now we are going to work on our handle piece. So you're going to take your handle, fold it right sides together like so. You're going to sew with the seam allowance across the top and then top stitch down each side of that seam so you have formed a loop. Now down the center line, we're going to go ahead and use some double-sided tape here. Again, you can use clips if you prefer. Go all the way around this loop. This is your typical blue Calla handle or straps. They're just amazing. Then what we want to do is take the long side and fold it into those center lines on both sides, all the way around the loop. Now we're going to take this to the machine and we are going to top stitch with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way around the loop on both sides. That center top stitch is done, what we want to do is from the seam on one side of it, we want to measure in about 1¼ inches, and then we're going to fold this in on that line and then fold this wrong sides together, holding in place with clips. Clip down all of the sides. And then once you have that in place, you're going to go ahead and you're going to top stitch around all 4 sides with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now that that's all done, what we're going to do is we are going to measure in 1 inch from each of the short ends and draw a line with an erasable pen or chalk. Then we're going to take little scraps of double-sided tape and put them within those little boxes that we did. So on the wrong side, there we go. Now on this piece here, we're going to take our pattern piece, and I've already cut out the placement for the handle. I also have already put my Decovil Heavy on the opposite side. I fused it on. So make some marks with an erasable pen, and this is going to help us for the placement of our handle. Make sure they're definitely centered and even. And you'll see we're going to want to pull away our zipper panels here because we do not want to accidentally sew through those, and that's also showing us where that Decovil Heavy piece I've already fused on into the center bottom is. Okay, once those are secured away, pull off some tape and line one short end up with one end of those marks that we made, and we're going to top stitch that 1 inch square around there to secure, and then the opposite end of the handle you're going to bring up and put the short end at the other line and do the exact same thing. Went ahead and I installed some rivets just to hold those in place a little bit more, and that's what that looks like all done. Now we're going to work on the lining. For all of our lining panels, we want to find our top and bottom centers, and we're going to work with the inner sides first. So you're going to put these right sides together, lining up the center of that inner zipper panel with the center of the curvy side or top of one of our zipper pocket panels. We are going to bring the sides up to where the curvy part ends. So we're leaving the box corner part unsewn. So you're bringing the side of the interior zipper panel to just past where that curvy part is before it jets into where we will be doing a box corner. Go ahead and evenly distribute the fabric around those curves the rest of the way. All in place. We're going to take this to the machine with the lining main panel down, and we're going to sew all the way around here with the seam allowance. So what that looks like done. Make sure everything was caught. Go ahead and repeat with the other inner zipper panel as well as another lining. So this is the two inner zipper panels done. You're going to repeat the exact same process again, but you're going to be using the outer zipper panels on both sides. So go ahead and do that. Okay, so this is all the zipper panels done. She looks good. Now what we're going to do is on one side, we're going to clip the long straight edge of the bottom all the way across, and we will sew across that bottom with a full seam allowance. The opposite side, we're going to mark in 1 1/4 inches from each side, as we are going to leave the center of this bottom unsewn for turning later on. So we're just going to sew in between those marks, making sure you backstitch well at start and stop. Okay, so that is done. So we have an opening in one side, the other is closed. Now to box these corners, you just kind of pull these seams together. I actually ended up I was trying to open my seams up here, but I found it better if you pushed your seams towards the center. It just sat a lot nicer. So I do change that later on. Clip these corners in place. Go ahead and sew across that with the full seam allowance of 4/4. This is the lining complete. All of our corners are boxed and we have that opening for turning. You can kind of see the bag is starting to take shape. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make my own vinyl piping. If you need a class on how I make my vinyl piping, that is down below in the description. You can also use pre-made piping if you prefer. Okay, so I just wanted to point out that I am leaving, when I'm making my piping, my cording 3.5 inches outside of my 18-inch piping pieces, and that is so the cording will not get in the way where we are going to be trying to veer it off of the fabric. So mark your centers of both of the raw edges of your piping. as well as the top and bottom centers of your side panels here. And then what we want to do is take our centers. Actually, first, we're going to mark up on the right side 1 inch up with an erasable pen. And this is going to be our guide for where we are going to veer our piping out of the seam allowance. So now you're going to take your middle center of your piping and the middle center of your side panel, match up those raw edges. When you get to the corners, you may find, especially if you're using vinyl piping, that it doesn't want to go around that corner. So go ahead and put little 1/8 of an inch snips through there to help ease that around that corner. Use lots of clips to hold that in place. And then when you get to that 1 inch line, that is where you want to veer your piping off the edge. And that is also where we want to make sure our cording is cut out, so we are not sewing over that cording when we go to put this in place. So again, I'm veering it out and I have no cording in there. Clipping that in place. Same with the other side, snips into those corners to help ease my vinyl piping around. Clip, 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 and when you get to that 1 inch, you're going to go ahead and veer that off. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and you can baste these in place. Okay, so that is our piping on. You can go ahead and you can trim up the excess piping to follow the lines of our side panels like so. And that's what that looks like so far. Okay, now on the back side of our 2 side panels on all 4 bottom corners, we want to put little 3/8 of an inch boxes. And then you also want to do that on your bottom piece, all 4 corners. Now on our main piece here, we also want to do that, little 3/8 of an inch boxes on all the corners, because yes, we are going to be doing some Y seams here. I always love the look of a corner with the Y seams. I believe that's what they're called. That is what I call them. So now you kind of want to squish, squish, squish this down, and we want to put our exterior side panel orientated in the correct way you want for your zipper. Again, I'm doing mine opposite what I usually do because my husband is left-handed and I want my zippers to close from left to right rather than from right to left. So match up that center, and you're going to match these up very similar to how we did the linings, except for we will be bringing the edges right down to the bottom like so. Be very aware of where your piping is when you're doing this. You want to make sure you have no kind of pleats or tucks or anything in there, so kind of massage as you're clipping. I used a ton of clips as I did use vinyl. Okay, now we're going to go ahead, take this to the machine like this, and we are going to sew all the way from that 3/8 of an inch box all the way around, and then stopping at the next 3/8 of an inch box, making sure you are back stitching really well at start and stop. Now I have switched into my piping foot here because that makes it so I can get my needle and my thread really, really close to my piping, which I like. If you do not have a piping foot, I definitely recommend putting on a zipper foot so you can get as close as you can to that piping. One side done. See, I have my corners free and clear, which is good. You can kind of pop this out and take a look at your piping to make sure you got close enough. If you didn't, you can always go back in and touch that up. Mine looks pretty good. So I'm going to put this wrong side out and do the same with the opposite side. So there we go. I'm going to pop it all out, make sure everything looks good. Does make sure I don't have to go back in and do some adjustments, and I don't, which is great. Squish it all wrong side out again like so. Make sure you have the zipper with the opening in the bottom open. And now we're going to take our bottom piece. You want to find your longer sides centers, like so. And then we are going to put this right sides together along one of the side panels. Clip in place, and you're going to kind of fold back that Y seam so you can match up the raw edges all the way to the corner of the bottom of the side panel and this side of our bottom panel. Again, for the other side, pull those seams apart so you can line up those raw edges. And then we're going to take this to the machine, and we are going to sew through here from 3/8 of an inch box to 3/8 of an inch box with the seam allowance. One long side done, you can see how good that looks. Now you're going to go ahead and do the exact same thing with the opposite side. Once you have that side done, again 3/8 box, 3/8 box, you can go ahead and do the same with the two sides. They should fit in here really well. Again, pull apart those seams so you can line up those raw edges really good, and then sew across both of these from 3/8 box to 3/8 box. Know if you did your stitching right, because your stitching is all going to really match up well at those right angles. Now what we want to do is kind of fold those Y seams flat and trim off a little bit of the ends to reduce some bulk, making sure you do not cut into your stitching. It'll just make it so those corners end up being really, really good. Once you have that, you can go ahead, reach in through that opening of that zipper lining and pull this right sides through. Now be really careful not to tug on anything too hard, especially the handle. You don't want to accidentally pull that out. This does take a little bit of effort for me, mainly because of my carpal tunnel, and I used vinyls for my exterior. But again, you just kind of squish and push and squish and push. One of the other reasons I like to use foam, because it does not pull away and you don't get that wrinkled look. So go ahead and keep on going, massage it through. Seems once you get to about here, it comes through super easy. See? Ta-da! Reach in through that opening and poke out your corners to make sure everything looks good. Look how beautiful those Y seam corners are. They turned out great. Run your fingers along that bottom seam just to make sure everything was caught good. Push all the lining in, kind of massage it around. That looks good. Now what you can do is pull out the lining that has the opening, fold in those raw edges, and then clip it in place. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take this to the machine, and you're going to go ahead and you are going to top stitch that closed all the way across that opening. That is all done. Stuff that back in. And that is it, you guys. Massage all your seams, admire your work, pat yourself on the back. Super satisfying, fast sew. My zippers are going the same way, which is perfect. And we're done.
All right, that's it. That's all. So I'm going to put in the cards at the end here, a link to the original tutorial if you want to see the differences between the constructions to get the same end result. I find that super interesting myself. I have made so many of these in the old construction, so it was a lot of fun to do the same thing in a newer construction method. Anyways, if at any time you did like this tutorial for some reason, a thumbs up has just happened right there. I don't know why. If you like this tutorial, give me a thumbs up. It's probably because I went like this or I went like this. I don't know. YouTube is weird. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. If you'd like to support my channel further, you can always buy me a coffee. That's linked down below in the description. Check out the membership side in case there's something there that sparks your interest. And until the next one, I'll catch you guys again. Bye.